Poltergeist was directed by Tobe Hooper, it was produced by Steven Spielberg, and stars JoBeth Williams and Craig T. Nelson. An entity disturbs a family of 5 and their youngest as she seemingly disappears once the ghosts intrude their home. If you're a movie fan, you've probably seen 100 different versions of haunted house movies. Usually there's a bunch of jump scares, ghosts are in the film. Nothing is ever too different, which is why I don't like this genre very much at all, especially because I've never been a big fan of jump scares, especially when they are overused. And a lot of haunted house movies tend to over-rely on jump scares just to get some cheap scares out of their audiences. So ever since I was a kid, I hated the haunted house horror movie genre, and going into Poltergeist, I figured this was the first of many other films that would come after it that would spark that jump scare galore that every single horror movie tends to do nowadays. But thankfully, Poltergeist is much different than a lot of other haunted house movies I've seen before. This movie does do things differently, and it absolutely is original in its own right. I really enjoyed this movie from beginning to end. I think it's a pretty darn good movie to watch around Halloween, and for a horror movie, it's absolutely up there for one of the best, and it's obviously a classic. I do want to mention real quick before diving deeper into my review for Poltergeist that I will be going into some spoilers because I need to talk about a few things in order for you guys to understand exactly what I'm talking about. Plus, this movie has been out since the 1980s, so if you have not seen it already, what are you doing? It's Halloween season. Go ahead, watch this movie, and then come back and see my review. Random thought, but the first thing I wanted to point out is, since when do 8-year-olds have an Alien poster in their bedroom? Whoever let their kids watch Alien, what are you doing? You are the worst parents in the world. What I actually liked about Poltergeist to start is how within the first 15 or so minutes, the movie does not feel like a horror movie, except for that initial 3 minutes where the little girl is talking to the TV. That's the only part of the first 15 minutes that does feel like a horror movie. Besides that, this movie does not whatsoever feel like a horror movie in the first 15 minutes. It feels like it's going in a different direction until some of the weird things start to happen again. The movie doesn't become a full-on horror until JoBeth Williams begins to notice that the chairs are moving themselves. After that happens, you then realize this movie is, yes, a horror movie, but before that, in the first 15 minutes, besides that first 3 minutes, you kind of thought to yourself, maybe this is not a horror movie, or at least it's not a scary horror movie whatsoever. What makes this movie so different, though, first thing, is that it's not just a haunted house film. This is a kidnapping/rescue mission in a horror genre movie. And the majority of this film follows this family trying to get their little girl back from these ghosts who have kidnapped her. She's somewhere in the house, but they can't see her. She's in this different dimension, and they can't figure it out where exactly she went. While watching this, at first I was like, is this going to become one of those kidnapping movies? Is this truly a horror movie, or is this a horror movie that's more realistic? Because in real life, when kids get kidnapped, that is scary, and to lose your little daughter, that's terrifying. So I loved how they did that in this film. It's not just another typical haunted house horror movie. This does have some different elements that you don't usually see in supernatural horror movies. Remember how I was complaining about jump scares earlier though? Going into this film, I figured there would be a bunch of jump scares, but thankfully, there are little to no jump scares throughout the majority of this film. For the most part, you are on the edge of your seat, which is why I genuinely appreciate this movie, because it does not over-rely on jump scares just to get cheap scares out of its audience. This movie is unnerving, it's creepy, it keeps you off balance. You're just waiting to see what's going to happen next, and there are no pauses in the middle due to these stupid jump scares that just come out of nowhere for no reason whatsoever. The movie is always keeping you on the edge of your seat because it does not use a bunch of stupid jump scares. As for the performances, everyone is excellent in this movie. I know I tend to say this a lot about older films, but the acting in the old days compared to present day just does not compare. I feel like everyone was on their A game back in the day, and nowadays they just don't try. JoBeth Williams plays an iconic role in Poltergeist, and she is absolutely the main character in this movie. There's no doubt about it. I think she is phenomenal throughout the duration of Poltergeist. She deserved at least a few awards back in the day, but what the heck, I guess they don't like horror movies at the Oscars or anything else. That's not to say this movie got completely snubbed at the 1983 Oscars, because thank goodness it did get nominated for 3 Oscars that year. Also, Craig T. Nelson as the father in Poltergeist is really good. He plays a father figure. He's someone you can trust as a kid. He knocks it out of the park in this movie. After playing this character and Mr. Incredible in 2004's The Incredibles, I look at him as one of the best father figures in Hollywood history. If I had to choose anyone to play the character of a father in a film, I would choose Craig T. Nelson, because the guy is always good as a dad in a movie. I must add that it's really a shame that Dominique Dunne passed away a few months after this film's release after a tragic death. She was excellent in this movie as well. I thought she had a really bright future in Hollywood, so for her to pass away so soon is a tragedy. But besides the kidnapping elements that make Poltergeist feel more unique for a horror film, I also love the sci-fi elements. This movie does use a good amount of sci-fi, which you don't see too often in horror movies. There's this hidden world within the house that you can't see, but it's where all the ghosts are, along with the little girl. It reminds me so much of the Upside Down from Stranger Things. And I like how they don't show us what this world looks like, because that does allow the audience to draw their own interpretation of what they think the world beneath the house looks like. If they did show us, I would not complain, but it's nice that they let the audience think for themselves in this situation. What's also really cool about Poltergeist is how there are 2 endings. The movie goes on for about an hour and 40 minutes, you think it's over, and then there's an extra 20 minutes after that where the film just keeps going on. And from that point onward, the movie is unpredictable. I did not expect that part of the film to come about, and it did, which surprised me. Horror movies are always incredibly predictable, so for this movie to be a bit more on the unpredictable side was nice. One last thing I must add is this creepy clown. I expected the clown to attack the kid eventually, and yes, it does, but not until the final 20 minutes, which, again, I did not think was going to happen at the end of Poltergeist. I thought the final 20 minutes was just a little extra add-on, but no, the clown attacks a kid within those final 20 minutes. A lot of other horror movies would have utilized that creepy clown really early on in the movie, and that would have ruined it. And the way they utilized that jump scare was unexpected and very creative. Poltergeist does a lot of things right. There are plenty of things you have never seen before in the horror film genre that Poltergeist does do. And yes, there are a few problems that I'm getting into right now. Sometimes the pacing isn't great. You're only invested in the film when the supernatural elements are going on with the ghost and the little girl and the family when they are being haunted. But when that's not happening, I don't really care that much about this movie. I'm only interested when all that supernatural stuff is going on. But this is the biggest spoiler of them all. If you have not seen Poltergeist yet, go ahead and watch the movie, then come back and watch my review. You have been warned. At the end of Poltergeist, it is revealed that this house, along with the other houses in the neighborhood, are built over a graveyard that was once there but dug up by the developers to build a new neighborhood. And the man that's responsible for this act dug up the tombstones but left all the dead bodies in the ground, so that's why these spirits are ticked off, because their bodies are being disturbed by this new neighborhood. So I do understand why these spirits are ticked off, but what I don't understand is why the spirits are so ticked off to the point where they kidnap Heather O'Rourke. And they had this expert come in who explains that there is this monstrous spirit who is holding Heather O'Rourke captive and not letting her go back to her home. But the movie never explains who that is and why they are doing that. Yes, I understand that these spirits are ticked off because people are living over their bodies, but again, are they really that pissed off to the point where they're going to kidnap a little girl? I wish the movie would have gone more into depth about what's going on with that situation. Besides those few problems, I do think Poltergeist is a must-watch this Halloween. It created its own little genre in a way, and it is a classic, so definitely go watch it if you have not done so yet this Halloween. I'm giving Poltergeist an 80%. So after watching Poltergeist, of course I was aware of the 2015 remake, which I never saw because I heard it was pretty bad, but I wanted to see if there was a sequel to Poltergeist, and there is for some reason, Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. Then I wanted to see if there was a sequel to the second movie, and I thought there's no way they made a third Poltergeist movie that's not the remake. No way! I'm going to let you guys know right now that I will never be watching Poltergeist 2, 3, or the remake. There's no point, so they don't deserve my time. Next up, guys, though, I will be reviewing The Shining, so get ready for that review. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.